A little late this week, but here's my Week 5 preview. First matchup we got is myself versus Steve Freeman. Myself sitting at 3-1. Steve is at 0-4. Jumping right in, the quarterback battle is going to be between Tom Brady and Eli Manning, since it looks like Luck is going to miss his second straight game. Man, Luck has been a disappointment this whole year. It's frustrating. Either way, I like Brady. He's the best quarterback in the NFL right now. Running backs, we've got Le'Veon Bell and Latavius Murray for me. Latavius Murray is questionable, but I think he should be available for the game. He's at least been practicing. Steve's got Lamar Miller, and Gio Bernard needs to switch out McFadden with Lamar Miller since Miller's on his bye, and put in, I don't know, either Dwayne Allen or Vernon Davis in his flex. Either way, I like both of my running backs better. Le'Veon Bell is going to be sick. Latavius Murray going against a pretty tough Denver D. But then again, so's Gio going against Seattle on Sunday. McFadden kind of playing second fiddle to Joseph Randle. Could see some more attempts, though, just due to Lance Dunbar's pretty gruesome injury last weekend. But I like my running backs. Wide receivers, I've got Vincent Jackson and Willie Snead, a sneaky pick from New Orleans. It's actually shown out pretty well the last 3 or 4 games with 8, 6, and 10 points in those games, and his receptions have gone up every game, so his usage is starting to get a little better. Steve's got Emmanuel Sanders and Jermaine Kearse. I like Sanders the best out of the 4, but I like my 2 better than Jermaine Kearse. Kearse has been relatively consistent except for a 0-point game week 2, 9, 9, and 8 in the other weeks. Still like my wide receivers better, and it's subject to change depending on whether Alshon Jeffrey's ready to go. Tight ends. Right now I've got Crockett Gilmore, who's questionable, thinking about switching him out. He didn't practice yesterday. Steve's got Jason Witten. No matter who I throw out, I like Witten better. I think he's going to have a big game. Flex, I've got Dion Lewis. Steve's got Darren McFadden. I like Lewis here. Going into the bye, he was the 5th ranked running back in the game. I think he follows that up with double digits this game too. Heavily involved in the passing game. He's done well for me so far. Got 11, 19, and 14 in the weeks leading up to his bye. Defense, I've got the Broncos going against Oakland. Steve's got Seahawks going against Cincinnati. I like the Broncos. They're the best defense in football right now, although the Seahawks are good. This is just going based off matchup. Oakland is a different animal than Cincinnati. Kickers, don't care. Pick myself to win. Steve to fall to 0-5. Me to go to 3-1. Next matchup we got is Jake Freeman versus David Printz. Jake's 4-0. David took his first loss last week, kind of like the Bulldogs did. Let's see. Jake's got at quarterback. Jake's got Phillip Rivers. David's got Blake Bortles. I like Rivers the best. He is having a good year. He's passing for a lot of yards. Yeah, Steve, I guess that's the best you got since Romo's out. At running back, Jake needs to switch out Duke Johnson with Adrian Peterson since he's on a bye, and he's got Mark Ingram. David's got Melvin Gordon and Rashad Jennings. I probably like David's just for the sake of consistency. Jennings had a good game last week, and I expect him to get a lot of carries against a pitiful San Francisco team. Expect them to be up pretty big. and pretty much running the clock out from the third quarter. If AP was back, that'd be a whole different story, but Duke Johnson and AP, or Mark Ingram, I'm going to take Davids there. Wide receiver, Jake's got Golden Tate and Ruben Randall. David's got Antonio Brown and Calvin Johnson. While normally this would be an easy pick, Antonio Brown is just so hurt by Big Ben being out. And Ruben Randall's really showed up the last 2 weeks. 21-9. Just got to expect him to come back to earth at some point. Golden Tate's been pretty bad, only broke double digits once, even with the bonus we get for catching 5 passes. I'd probably take Davids here as well. Tight ends, Jake's got Martellus Bennett. David's got Derek Carrier, who I guess if Jordan Reed can't go this week, I guess that's Washington's starting tight end. Either way, I like Bennett. Kansas City's given up crazy points to pass catchers in the last few weeks, so I like Bennett. Flex, if I'm Jake, I'm probably starting Marvin Jones. I think Seattle will be keying in on A.J. Green pretty hard, and so Marvin Jones might get a little open. David's got Pierre Garçon, who's played pretty well this year. Hadn't dipped below 8 so far. Probably like Pierre Garçon here. Defense, Jake's got the Lions going against Arizona. David's got Patriots going against Dallas. I like the Patriots. I think Arizona's probably one of the, let's see. Yeah, Cardinals are not giving up many points to opposing defenses at all. Dallas has been pretty anemic the last couple weeks. Their offense has. Toss up, I like the Patriots. This is a pretty tough matchup. I'll probably take. He's burned me twice in a row now, so I'll take Jake this time to move to 5-0. David to fall to 3-2. Next matchup we have. Daniel Printz versus Steve Carter. Steve Carter is our other undefeated team at 4-0. Dan is 1-3, but has a better team than people or than that record reflects, I believe. Quarterback, we've got Carson Palmer for Dan, Aaron Rodgers for Steve. Aaron Rodgers all day, no explanation needed. Although Carson Palmer has put up some pretty good points so far this season. Running back, Dan's got Eddie Lacy and Justin Forsett. Steve's got Frank Gore and Devontae Freeman. I probably like Dan's better. Frank Gore's got a little foot problem, and it's the Thursday night game. Just not a lot of offense traditionally in these games. And I've just got to think Devontae Freeman comes back to earth a little bit. But could have a big game with Julio out. They might leave, or with Julio kind of hobbled, they might run the ball a little more. But Lacey's finally healthy, it looks like again. Going to get the monster carries against St. Louis. Justin Forsett had his first big game last week and faces a pretty crappy defense. So I probably like Dan's better here. Wide receiver, Dan's got Mike Evans and Amari Cooper. Steve's got DeAndre Hopkins and Michael Crabtree, who's questionable right now. Didn't practice Wednesday. But I think he'll play. Just want to keep an eye out on that, Steve. This is tough. I like Amari Cooper better than Crabtree, obviously. But I like Hopkins better than Evans just because Evans is playing with a rookie quarterback and has kind of seen his production fluctuate. If you held a gun to my head, I'd probably take Dan's just because I don't like Thursday night games. Tight ends, Dan's got Richard Rodgers, Green Bay. Steve's got Josh Hill from New Orleans. I like Richard Rodgers here since he is the primary tight end, and that's really the only reason. I think both of them are kind of physically limited. Um, Josh Hill is just sharing a lot of time with Ben Watson. Ben Watson's actually getting the most snaps for New Orleans. Flex, Dan's got Keith Mumphrey, who I'm not even sure who that is. Yeah, I have no idea who that is. Anquan Bolden for Steve. Like Bolden, he's really the only good, reliable wide receiver San Francisco has, and I expect them to be passing a lot. Defense, Dan's got the Ravens. Might want to see who's out on the waiver wire there, although they are playing Cleveland. Steve's got the Cardinals going against Detroit. I like the Cardinals. I think they're a great defense, getting a lot of pick sixes. This one's going to be a close matchup as well. But I'll probably take Steve's team just because I think they're a little more consistent. And you've got Aaron Rodgers. So, yeah. Steve to go to 5-0. Dan to fall to 1-4. Next matchup, we've got Daniel Carter versus Ben Towns. Quarterbacks, we've got Tyrod Taylor for Daniel, Russell Wilson for Mr. Ben. I'll probably take Tyrod. Tyrod's been pretty good this year. And he's going up against a weaker opponent than Cincinnati is. That's kind of a toss-up. Both of them are kind of cut from the same mold. Running back, Dan's got Jeremy Hill, who's questionable, and Amir Abdullah. Mr. Ben's got LeGarrette Blount and Chris Johnson. I probably like Dan's better just because Jeremy Hill's going to get touches, and so's Amir Abdullah. You just never know about LeGarrette Blount or Chris Johnson, especially if Andre Ellington returns this week. I don't expect LeGarrette Blount to have that big of a role in the offense. The only time they really handed the ball off to him is in the second half of a beatdown against Jacksonville. So unless that same thing kind of happens, I don't think LeGarrette Blount's going to be getting too many touches. Wide receivers, Jordan Matthews and Leonard Hankerson, who's also questionable for Dan. But Mr. Ben's got John Brown and Malcolm Floyd. Probably like Dan's here as well. Although that's really close. I don't really like Hankerson or Malcolm Floyd. So I guess it just comes down to the fact that I think Jordan Matthews is going to get his share of targets as the number one option in Philadelphia. Whereas John Brown's kind of up and down, touchdown dependent kind of guy. Tight end, Dan's got Travis Kelce. Mr. Ben's got Ladarius Green, who we should note that Antonio Gates is back for Phillip Rivers and San Diego. So you better hope that Julius Thomas suits up because there is not much on the waiver wire for tight ends. At flex, Dan's got Ronnie Hillman. Mr. Ben's got TJ Yeldon. I like Yeldon. Denver's been pretty bad running the ball. And Yeldon's been pretty good. And they're facing a team where I don't think they'll have to abandon the run after the second quarter. Dan's not starting a defense. Needs to pick one up. Needs to drop Christine Michael. Probably. That's who I'd drop if I were you. Mr. Ben's got the Bengals going against Seattle, which is a better play than previous years just because Seattle's been giving up a lot of sacks this year. Kickers don't care. Picking Dan to go to 3-2, Ben to go to 2-3. All right. Next matchup we got is Craig Land versus Neil. Craig's at 1-3. Neil's at 0-4. Just bad luck, Neil. Bad luck. Quarterback. But hey, keep getting those waiver wire pickups since I just realized how that's how the waiver wire is structured. So, more you spend at the bottom, the better waiver wire pickups you're going to get. Quarterback. Craig's got Derek Carr. Neil's got Sam Bradford. Both of them. Sam Bradford's just bad. Derek Carr's good, but I think he has a tough matchup against Denver. Kind of a toss-up. I'll take Carr just because of the upside. You never know. Running back. Craig's got Carlos Hyde and Arian Foster, who should play this week. Neil's got Doug Martin and Carlos Williams. Carlos Williams, probably not going to play. Again, bad luck, Neil. Got a concussion that last game, which sucks. I'd definitely put in Joseph Randall anyway. Gotta like Craig's here just because of Arian Foster, and the game flow for Carlos Hyde might go a little more in his favor than in previous games. Wide receivers, Craig's got Randall Cobb and Allen Robinson. Cobb's questionable. I think he should play. Neil's got Odell Beckham and Julio Jones. Assuming Julio's feeling a little better, he does have toe and hamstring problems, which isn't good. I like Neil's better. I think both of those wide receivers should turn out top 10 seasons. Tight end, Craig doesn't have anybody. Needs to pick somebody up. The waiver wire is pretty bad, so I like Larry Donnell for Neil. Flex. We've got Kendall Wright for Craig and Jeremy Maclin for Neil. Macklin's looked good the last 2 weeks, so I like him better. Plus, going against a way easier secondary than Buffalo's that Kendall Wright's going to have to go up against. Defense, we've got Giants going against San Francisco for Craig. Bills going against the Titans for Neil. Kind of a toss-up because Tennessee's offense is better than usual, but the Bills have more talent. But the matchup is good for the Giants. I'll probably just pick the Giants just because I think Kaepernick will throw at least a pick or two and get sacked. So, going Giants. Kickers don't care. I'll pick Neil in this matchup just because of the wide receivers, and he's got a good running back option down there with Joseph Randall. So, I like Neil's team to finally break through. Both of them will be 1-4 after this week. Second to last matchup we have Joe Printz versus Matt Freeman. Quarterback, we've got Andy Dalton for Joe, Drew Brees for Matt. Kind of a toss-up. Drew Brees got the better matchup, and he's proven. Andy Dalton, kind of up and down. He's looked really good this season, though, but he is playing Seattle, which is tough. He does have a lot of weapons, so we'll see. I'm going to rate that a toss-up. Running backs, Joe's got Jamal Charles and Alfred Morris. Matt's got Matt Forte and Darren Sproles. I'd take Joe's just because of Jamal Charles. I like both of the top running backs that they have, but both Alfred Morris and Darren Sproles, you never know, one, how many touches they're going to get, and two, what they're going to do with those touches. Wide receivers, Joe's got A.J. Green and Keenan Allen. Matt's got Jarvis Landry on bye, so he's probably subbing in Julian Edelman. And Stevie Johnson, who's questionable. Apparently wasn't at practice last week, but probably should play. If not, better hit the waiver wire. Matt, you do have an extra bench spot, so you can pick somebody up. Um, at tight end, or I definitely like Joe's wide receivers no matter who plays for Matt. Tight ends, we got Owen Daniels going against Oakland for Joe and Zach Ertz for Matt. Matt, I keep telling you, got to drop Zach Ertz, man. I'd put in Charles Clay for sure. I think he's a great play this week and for the rest of the year, honestly. Flex, Joe's got Kenny Britt. Matt's got Isaiah Crowell. I like Crowell just because he's a number one option, going to get touches. You never know about Britt and the rest of the St. Louis wide receivers. Plus, I think Britt's a little banged up as well. Got 0 points last week. Defense, Joe's thrown out the Raiders defense. That's a bold move. Matt's got the Texans going tonight against Indy, who probably won't have Andrew Luck. I like Matt's play here, definitely. The Raiders are just bad on defense. And speaking of the Raiders, that's why I like Owen Daniels. I think he'll have a good game. Oakland is piss poor against the tight ends, like historically piss poor against the tight ends. They're giving up 13 more points to tight ends than the average NFL team. That's insanity. They're giving up 21.5 points a game, and these aren't teams, or at least one of these teams isn't known for having great tight ends. So, good play. If I'm Matt, I'm definitely putting in Gurley somewhere. Yeah, but check for a wide receiver on the waiver wire too, in case Stevie Johnson. You got an extra bench spot, no reason not to. But I'll pick Joe to win this because I think it's a push on the quarterbacks and running backs maybe, and I just like his wide receivers. But you also need to look for a defense, Joe. Last matchup we have Paul Anderson versus Darlene Printz. The quarterback. Whoa. Quarterback, we got Peyton Manning for Paul, Matt Ryan for Darlene. I like Matty Ice. He's looked good. Hopefully they won't just run the ball like they did last week. Running backs, Paul's got DeAngelo Williams and Shane Vereen. Darlene's got DeMarco Murray and Antonio Andrews. Andrews has had somewhat of a breakout game last week with 11 points. Looked good doing it. So I like Darlene's running backs as well. Paul's got Larry Fitz and James Jones at wide receiver. Darlene's got Demaryius Thomas and Allen Hurns. That's tough. Allen Hurns has really been the Jacksonville guy to own this year, with people focusing in on Robinson. But he's questionable as well. Got an ankle and a thigh injury. James Jones is also questionable. I don't know. That's kind of a toss-up. If I had to, I guess I'd probably pick Paul's, just because at least one of them's not questionable. Tight end, Paul's got Rob Gronkowski. Darlene's got Antonio Gates, who's coming off his suspension. Definitely got to like Gronk here. Best tight end in the game. Antonio Gates might have a big week, though, since he's definitely going to be fresh. Hopefully he'll be in condition. At flex, Paul's got Travis Benjamin, Cleveland wide receiver. Darlene's got Gary Barnidge, Cleveland tight end. I like Benjamin. He's going to get the targets. Barnidge had one good game against Oakland and followed it up with a pretty good game against San Diego too, so maybe he's seeing an uptick in the target department as well. Defense, Paul's got Steelers going against San Diego. Darlene's got Rams going against Green Bay. I like the Steelers, although I don't really like either of them. I like the Steelers more just because Green Bay's offense doesn't turn the ball over and they score a lot of points. I just don't know where you're going to get points. So I like the Steelers. See, I'm going to pick Paul to win this matchup because I think Gronkowski has a big game. I just don't like your widers. I just don't like your running backs. Sucks for you that Sean McCoy and Fred Jackson are out. But I don't know. DeMarco Murray could do something. He just hasn't shown me anything this year. So I'm going to pick Paul. All right. Just to recap, picking myself over Steve Freeman, Jake Freeman over David Printz. I think I said Steve Carter. Yeah, Steve Carter over Daniel Printz. Daniel Carter over Ben Towns. Neil over Craig. Joe over Matt Freeman. And Paul over Darlene. All right. See y'all next week.